So here we are. What year is this? 2021?
20, I think, yeah. Last time I checked.
It took us this long to realize, everybody's going carbon neutral, right? They want to go carbon neutral, electric vehicles, carbon neutral.
Yeah, right.
Well, the biggest argument is okay. Something has to deliver the electric vehicle. Something has to build the electric vehicle. You have to move product to plants that build those things. So how can you truly be completely carbon neutral?
Well, we've been saying that on this show forever, and I point back to our both YouTube segment and our podcast where we covered where your electricity comes from.
Right.
If you're not familiar, everybody just go check us out over at youtube.com/partscountergurus, or you can hit our website at partscountergurus.com. And there's a podcast tab at the top. Yep. And you can find the link to whatever podcast platform of choice you have, and you can find it all there. Anyway, I digress, Jay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so surely you guys are familiar with what supercars are, hypercars are. We've got an interesting story that popped up. And I'm going to try to say this and pronounce this correctly. I believe it's Koenigsegg. Is that right? Koenigsegg?
Yeah, the kids. Like I just, from playing all the video games with the kids, they slang. It's they're not. It's Koenigsegg. Koenigsegg.
Yeah.
And which is not
Koenigsegg.
technically correct.
Right.
I think you're correct, but I just say it like the kids say it, man.
But so this story is kind of interesting. You found it, or either you did or Sideshot did, one of the two. But
right.
We those guys make $3 million supercars, and he has come out and talking about how they're going to use basically a volcano fuel to to help them achieve some carbon neutrality, if you will.
I love it. I freaking love this, just because it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but it's no different than building a dam, hydropower, using your resources, right?
I want to know. So Christian von Koenigsegg said, he started the company in 1994 when he was 22 years old. Mm-hmm. Dude, 22 building supercars.
Yeah, he said he had a dream since he was a young boy to build his own car. We all had that dream. But who knew that you would be starting a supercar, hypercar company at that age, right?
So, yeah, and, he's clearly been, back to kind of what we were talking about in the previous segment with the Teslas and creative thought. He's thinking outside the box. Like, there's a lot of talking here. He's been this way from the beginning, like how he builds these cars. And their build, he's at least this one he's talking about building in, I think, Nevada.
Like Reno.
Yeah, and so he's talking about being propulsion agnostic, and basically they're getting their electric. It's still electric, okay, from what I understand, but it's how they create that electricity. So again, back to kind of our thing of how, where your electricity comes from. And also, kind of back to what we've repeatedly said about, what Chuck Lynch told us from AERA, having the ability to draw from multiple fuel sources.
Right.
So this guy is basically saying, Christian is saying, we're just going to use what we can to make that electricity. And in this case, it's volcanic.
It's volcanic CO2 emittance. He goes on to say there's this technology from Iceland. It was invented there, where they cap the CO2 emittance from semi-active volcanoes and convert that into methanol. And if you take the methanol and you power the plants that do the conversion of the other fuels, and then power the ship to transport those fuels to Europe or the U.S. or Asia or wherever it goes, you put the fuel completely CO2 neutral into the vehicle. And see, that's the argument that people have about electric vehicles. That how to prove that point that you are truly carbon neutral.
Yeah.
And that's what we've argued that point as well. And he takes this question head on and says, well, this is how you do it, and this is how you can do it. Now, he does go on, and he laughs a little bit about it, has a chuckle about it. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but you never know unless you try. And that's the point. And I think also that what you have to take into consideration, who the heck is going to build a $3 million supercar when there are other cars out there for a few $100,000 or even $500,000 or even around $1 million that will perform on true and tried platforms? That's the difference with what these guys actually do, and this is why I like him. People like Elon Musk, same way. They help close the gap in technology.
Yeah.
By building these types of cars out of these technologies that nobody else will touch. But you have to test them and you have to try it. So this is a good example of an entrepreneur using his head and the money and the cash flow that he has to build a $3 million vehicle that someone's interested in buying. And trust me, these people are they're into philanthropy, and this helps aid that technology. And again, like I said, at the end of the day, you might be thinking right now, why the heck do I care? Because in 10 years, I will guarantee you that some of the technology that comes out of what he is talking about here is going to help close that gap to make the price of these electric vehicles and actually make us get closer to carbon neutrality in a more realistic way. So we'll see what happens.
Jay, I can see it now. So, I've been sending Jay pictures over the past week of some of these superchargers, Tesla superchargers, where like people will just pull up in their like Toyota Tacoma and park in them. Or there was one with a R-Pod, which are sweet little tow behind campers. And the guy just literally so there's like 10 superchargers in a row, and the guy looks it's a grocery store lot, and he's like, oh, well, there's open parking down there. And he rolls in sideways and takes up about 6 of them with his tow vehicle and his R-Pod hooked up. And it's like, dude, and it was not an EV. He was just, looking for a place to park at the grocery store. But I can see it now, okay? Somebody pulls into Yellowstone with their, Koenigsegg, which, by the way, the speed limit in Yellowstone, the max speed is 45 miles an hour in the park. So that's the highest
those supercars is kind of
right. It's kind of, and he's, hooking up his little Doc Brown, like, vacuum hose over to the top of it. Because that's Yellowstone's an active volcano, right?
Right.
I mean, okay.
Right.
And he's, like, capping off a geyser going, well, I need to recharge my car. And the Park Service is like, dude, what are you doing?
That's great.
Get off of Old Faithful, bro.
Hey, don't say it won't happen, because it might, man. You never know.
That's next, right?
That's next. That's right. Yeah. So there you have it. Wow. So way to go. What's his name again? Von
Christian
Koenigsegg.
Yeah, Christian.
Yeah. So thank you for trying something like that different. That's pretty cool. So.